here today to our candidates forum for the MCC Board of Trustees. It's a pleasure to have everybody here, especially on today where we just won our first round, 76-72. That was, if you guys didn't get to watch that, that was quite something, so it was phenomenal. So I think we were looking to play tomorrow, 5 o'clock here, the number 2 seed, so hopefully it'll be another good game. So go Pioneers. Yep. So that's all fun. So first off, thank you all again for coming. This is an important election. Everybody to be involved and be able to get a chance to meet our candidates this year, to be able to be a part, hear their views. So some of the things, we are short a candidate here tonight. I'm going to read her bio when we go through all that, but she couldn't attend here this evening due to some other obligations. So, I don't know if you can reach out or anything, but she will, like I said, be part of the bio here and go from there. So we do have our other 3 candidates here tonight. Just so you know, we did set you up by alphabetical order, so that was so there was just so that's how it lined out. We do have a set of questions that we will go through. We'll start here with Larry, and then we will rotate for the next one who starts going through the rounds. We do have a 2-minute time limit, so Dr. Radke is going to be the scorekeeper or timekeeper for us, and with the long stick, we'll knock them off. So with that, and then after that, we will open up the mic to the crowd for some questions after the first 5, and then if there's any questions from there, and then a chance if you want to come up and meet and visit with the candidates afterwards, kind of an informal gathering, and so desire. So that's kind of the way our agenda will work tonight. So we'll just go ahead and start through. And if it's all right, I'll read the bio that you were presented. Hopefully I can read it. I gotta get the right stuff here. Okay. We'll start with Larry. So Larry Brancy is currently the Eastern Region Department Head for MSU Extension, supervising county and reservation extension agents across the eastern third of Montana. He has a master's degree in agricultural economics from New Mexico State University and a bachelor's degree in animal science from MSU. Go Cats. That's me. So Larry grew up on a ranch near Ekalaka, has lived most of his life in eastern Montana. Larry and his wife Shannon have 3 daughters, all of whom graduated from CCDHS and have lived in Miles City since 2004. So welcome, Larry.
Thank you.
Moving on with Angela Mendoza, has over 20 years of experience as a business leader and several years of experience with grant writing and administrations. She also teaches 1 business class a term at MCC. Originally from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, her business background began as she worked her way through the ranks in retail and then went on to earn a bachelor's in business from Eastern Oregon University, a master's degree in organizational leadership from Southwest New Hampshire University, and working on a doctorate in higher education leadership from Concordia University, Chicago. As a grant administrator and public relations coordinator, Mendoza works with public sector to ensure the growth and economic stability in southeastern Montana. Welcome, Angela. Jeff Oakman has served as trustee for Miles Community College since 2009 and is a board chair from 2015 through 17. Jeff and Nancy Oakman, with their young family, moved to Miles City in the spring of '94 and have since been involved with the family ranching operation and more recently the partnership farming operation both south of Miles City. Jeff attended a college at MSU Bozeman and along with his 2 daughters have taken classes at MCC. Jeff has served on several industry and community boards, including board members of the Midland Empire Angus Association, president of the Montana State Solaires Association, board member and president of Town and Country Club, regional director for the Montana State Golf Association. Jeff and Nancy were the recipients of the 2019 Miles City Chamber of Commerce Ag Persons of the Year Award. So, welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
And also Jenna Jansen, is a born and raised Miles City native and is currently in the interior design at SDI Agriculture and Design. Architects and Design. I'm going to tell her that. She's now got a new degree. She has extensive experience in the hospitality industry and spends her time volunteering in the Miles City community. Jensen has current civic affiliations with Kiwanis Club of Miles City, Milestown Community Improvements, which is MC Squared, and USA Hockey. Jensen is also an alumni of the MCC class of 2006, where she graduated with an Associates of Arts and Science degree. She then went on to North Dakota State University, where she graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Interior Design and a minor degree in Hospitality and Tourism Management. Jensen has also selected to sit on the MCC 2020 Vision Planning Committee to help establish a strategic planning document to aid in college overall growth and development. She and her husband Brandon were recipients of the Miles City Chamber of Commerce Harvey Wolk Award for Community Betterment in 2020. So, I do thank all of you guys for taking the time to run this as a volunteer board, and I know it's a big commitment for everybody, and I do appreciate you taking the time to go through this endeavor, and hopefully, however it works out, we do appreciate everybody getting the time to run and be a part of this process. So with that, Larry, I will get a start with the first question, and then we will, 2 minutes, and then Angela, and then we'll just work on down. Okay? So our first question, if elected, what are your top priorities?
Well, that's a good question. And I guess what I would say in large part is that I think MTC as an educational institution, can't survive, without good leadership and people being in a place to bring the organization along. And so, in my job currently with MSU Extension, I work in administration there, and every once in a while I get a window into, the university system as a whole and how it operates. And I guess I've gained an appreciation for what leadership and competence mean, in that larger sense. And so as that relates back to MCC, I guess I would say is I think I have a wealth of knowledge that I can add to the board and experience, through the things I've done in my career with MSU Extension. In terms of top priorities, I don't know that I have too many, Ryan, other than, my experiences with MCC and the things that I've, able to see publicly, with, starting a new meat program and like we talked about the success that MCC is having in some of the athletics right now. And also thinking about the important role that community colleges serve in communities in terms of workforce development and those kinds of things. I think those are all things that we have to be conscious of and work toward. And I would have to say that probably, if I'm given the chance to be on board, give me a year or two and I'll probably be able to refine those thoughts quite a bit in terms of, initiatives that might need to be pushed forward. So that would be my thought for priorities.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Rita's giving me the thumbs up.
So, Angela, same question. Would you like me to repeat it? Or?
No. So, I think, first of all, if I were to get elected, is to obviously meet with the board and kind of figure out what their top priorities are and make sure that we're all in alignment. But having worked for the college before, I would say definitely trying to make sure that MCC is well known throughout the region and the country to help increase enrollment. I know that is a big factor that is always being looked at. And then just the best thing that I could possibly do to make sure that everything that comes out about MCC is positive and really makes people want to come and be lifetime members of, and not just sending their, coming here and then having their kids come here, but then also helping through funding scholarships and funding, donating however they can to the school. So those would be my priorities.
Thank you, Angela. Jeff?
So, I see being a board member gives me some advantages because we've been working on some of these priorities for quite some time, and I've been involved with them so, having said that, a big priority is to continue to support our president. We have a new president that's been in for about a year, and one of our major roles as trustees is to hire and retain a president. He came on board, 2 months later, he was hit with the COVID situation that we had, so that took a lot of time and energy, and now that that's kind of winding down, we can move forward with the skill set he brought and the vision he brought, and so we can work and support the president. The other is to advocate, both locally and legislatively. I mean, that's a continuing priority. I think it's important. I will agree with Angela that we are enrollment driven, and enrollment is always a top priority, and I don't think that it will ever not be. The other thing that is important to me is the last several years we have made an intentional move to become more data informed. I'd like to continue that as a priority. We've moved to having a culture of transparent and inclusive decision-making process, and I think that continues to evolve. And the one thing I'm really excited about is President Slater has embarked on a program to do some environmental scanning so that we can make a better, build better relationships with industry. And as we go forward and try to develop programs, I think that relationship with industry is really important. Another priority is nursing and allied health. It's become very apparent to me that we supply staffing for hospitals all the way across.
Time was called, Jeff.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Moving on to the second question, Angela, we'll start with you on this one. So, what are your interests in serving as a trustee on the board? So,
I thought about this a lot, actually. So I'm not from Miles City, but I did work for the college, and I really loved my time working for the college, and I loved everybody that I worked with. So a little bit of selfishness in me is being able to work with everybody that I really enjoy working with. But also, I really grew to love the college, and I want to see it succeed. And still teaching here, I want to be able to help grow the students, and I feel like as a board member coming in, I will be able to kind of influence how we grow those students a little bit more and making sure that the college is successful long-term so that we can still have a place in this region where people can come and learn and take something and better themselves long-term. And so for me, that's really what it is. It's being able to affect that long-term and making sure the MCC is around to teach those students.
okay, thank you, Angela. Jeff, what are your interests for serving as a trustee?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we support the president, so I certainly want to continue my role as a trustee on the board, on the board's drive to make the president successful. I think a successful president translates into a happy and prosperous campus. Another prong is MCC is really a beacon or the beacon for achieving greater community prosperity. And I think the highest calling I can think of or can imagine is to be a member of a team and an institution that enhances the health and well-being of our local community. And I think you can even expand the local community to include all of eastern Montana. So, and then I have firsthand knowledge of the powerful impact that MCC can have on student success, and I want to continue my role to support both institutional and student success. I'll use both my daughters as examples. They both capitalize on educational opportunities here and move their academic careers forward. And now one is, I'm going to brag a little bit, but one is a PA at family practice in the greater Denver area, and the other is a chief resident at Ohio State and Nationwide Children's Hospital in the pediatric dental program. So I am deeply rooted in the start here, go anywhere.
Thank you, Jeff. Larry, any question?
So, how do you say that, Jeff? A beacon for community prosperity? I love that term. That goes double for me. You know what? One of the things that kind of struck me as I walked in here, and probably in this particular room at MCC, I guess thinking back to probably back in the early 80s, sitting in here and writing a test for academic Olympics. And so I've sort of been sorting through all of the various things that I've taken part in or attended in this room. So, community candidate forums, watch my own kids in academic Olympics, stockholders have met here, we've had extension conferences here, and the list sort of goes on. And all of that. And I've never actually officially taken a class at MCC. But so the whole thought of a beacon for community prosperity, if I can borrow Jeff's term, is that that's really what community colleges do. And so in terms of I guess my initiative, why I'm here doing this is that it's very apparent how important this institution is, for Custer County and Miles City and building up people and helping people to be successful. And I think again, it's important that you have good leadership to do that. And I like the thought too of being here to support the president and the faculty and the rest of campus leadership, to move those goals forward. And as a team, there's probably a lot more that can be done.
Thank you, Larry.
You bet.
Moving on to the next question, starting with you, Jeff. How do we keep enrollment affordable when there's chronic underfunding? And you can thank Kylie for this one.
Can I take back what I said?
Wow, this might be a tough one even for an experienced trustee. How do we keep
Enrollment is affordable.
enrollment affordable?
Affordable.
Enrollment affordable. Well, the first thing we can do is drive increasing enrollment. I mean, that just builds on itself, and that gives us a bigger amount of money to work with. I think it's also important that we keep advocating legislatively, because the state is responsible for about 50% of our money. We also have county money coming in, but in my experience, we haven't ever gone to the county for another levy. So sustainable enrollment, proper funding from the legislature will help us more than anything. I think also being stewards and wisely allocating all the resources that are available will help keep our costs low.
Thank you, Jeff. Larry?
And I gotta follow that. And I think there's a lot of truth in what Jeff said, is that, you can't get money from turnout. You've gotta, it's gotta come from somewhere. So in thinking, on a larger scale, so, from the MSU perspective, you know, kind of struggle with the same things. Is that how do you keep that? You know, and part of it is that you know, the various initiatives that come along. So, you know, where is the ability to get some grant money to shore up a program, or a new initiative that you know, the meat cutting program would be one that comes to mind, where you actually probably have some new money that's helping that get off the ground, but also how do you appropriately leverage that new money so that, you know, it can aid other programs that are here. Obviously, you have situations where it's probably inappropriate to move money around in those, but I think if you think a bit holistically when you bring programs like that on board, there's opportunities for those to help build up the whole unit rather than just a single program. So it's being creative in how you do that and where you place funds and do those things. I think the other one too is that you know, as an educational institution, I think FCEC needs to trumpet their success, and that's, you know, at the legislature, and then, you know, are there other places to get funding too? Are there perhaps some private entities out there who are willing to fund programs at the university, at MCC and things like that? I'm trying to, I'm keeping my eye on Rita. So.
2 seconds to fair.
All right.
Thank you, Larry. Angela?
I think I would just have to piggyback kind of off what the guy said. I mean, it's grant money obviously is out there wherever we can find it. Legislation and pushing that to make sure that we're funded properly, and that we have the right funding models. But one of the things I think that is definitely an issue in most businesses, and colleges the same, is how we are spending our money and making sure that we are not being frivolous with the things that we purchase, and that spending is controlled. We all have budgets, but are those budgets being managed wisely? So I think for me, that is kind of the big factor. Is we all know where we can get the money from. It's, you guys have both said it, but once it's here, what are we doing with it, and how are we utilizing it is, to me, a big factor.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Moving on back, Larry, we'll start back with you again. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the college over the next 5 years?
Biggest challenges facing the college over the next 5 years. And there's probably quite a few of them, and I'm not sure I can, well, you know, probably one is, you know, obviously enrollment is always going to be an issue. And I was thinking today about some conversations, again, at the university level, you know, about graduating senior classes. And, you know, how, you know, the Board of Regents have analyzed those classes, and so thinking about how many seniors are out there available to go to schools. And you know, obviously in eastern Montana, you know, there aren't a lot of students here. And so, you know, how do we keep that enrollment up? I think financing is going to be another large issue. You know, you don't have to look too deeply to understand that, you know, the financial picture in Montana is changing a little bit, you know, and it looks like, our, you know, coal revenue is starting to dissipate and some of those other things. So that's going to put pressure on institutions like MCC and others, you know, going forward, just because there's going to continue to be an out-migration of people here. So I think that's also going to be a huge challenge. I think, too, you know, there's probably going to have to be some thought about how does MCC remain competitive, you know, in an environment, again, with you know, fewer students or fewer available students. How do you attract the students that you need to keep enrollment, and also to attract those high quality students too, that you know, that can really showcase the college here.
Thank you, Larry. Angela?
I hope that COVID is still not affecting us. Not over this one. But I would say that COVID will still be affecting us in some way, because we've kind of changed the way that we look at things, and more people are doing things online. So I think that online factor, while it's been growing significantly anyway, I think it's we're going to find that more and more people are wanting to do that. So as a college, how do we make those adjustments? MTC did amazing at making that adjustment for COVID, but I think it's going to be a long term, how do we continue to meet the needs of those students where they're at? Which I also think can affect our enrollment positively. So if we can affect them, we will have a positive enrollment outcome because we can meet them no matter where they're at or what state they're in. We can offer them classes and bring them to Miles City virtually. I will say that I think that there are more and more people getting away from cities and moving to rural areas because of COVID, so I think that that could have an impact on us as well. I think that we've seen people moving here from other states to get away. So I think that getting MCC out there and letting them know we're here can help definitely affect us in a positive way. I think colleges in general, financial is definitely always an issue, and we're always looking at legislative issues, and it seems like they're always trying to pull more funding away from us, so that will continue to be an issue. And then just being able to continue to manage the finances that come in. Obviously, we are always on limited budgets, and inflation is happening, and things get more expensive, so how do we manage that from a financial aspect?
Okay. Thank you, Angela. Jeff, what do you see the biggest challenges in the next 5 years?
So first and foremost on our radar is we are about to be issued, I guess is the word, a new funding formula. And so that's not going to come into effect in this biennium, but we continue to try to work with the legislature to make our funding from them as consistent and as sustainable as we can make it. We've seen huge swings. We've been underfunded in the recent past for at least 2 bienniums, if not 3 bienniums. And so the funding formula is probably one of our biggest challenges. So far, our outlook is MCC falls in okay with it, but we're going to go through some scenarios to make sure that that's true. Enrollment. We've made extraordinary strides in enrollment. I think it started back with President Cliftenstein. I think he left a legacy of enrollment knowledge and skills to our staff here, and I hope to continue to sustain realistic enrollment growth. It's always a challenge is to recruit, develop, and retain quality faculty and staff. And we strive to be market competitive in these markets when we make hires. We lag behind most of the time, and so it's a hurdle. And then startup costs for the career and technical education. As we talk about developing new programs, the startup costs are usually one of the big hurdles that we have to get over. Sometimes the need is there, sometimes industry informally tells us that they need this, and we look, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Kind of along the same lines as with this next question, starting with Angela here. We've talked about the challenges. Now the next thing is, what do you think our opportunities are going to be in the next 5 years? It might kind of lie along some of the same lines, but what do you feel will be our biggest opportunities for the college in the next 5 years?
I think one of the opportunities, kind of what I was saying with it being a challenge as well, is the online factor. There's so much growth that can happen with that in our enrollments. Like I said, just meeting them where they're at. So we have the opportunity to meet students from all over the world, even and bringing them to Miles City virtually. I think just the opportunity of getting us out there in a more positive light through that, bringing people here to Miles City and not just growing the college, but also the community. Yeah, kind of the same thing for me.
Thank you, Angela. Jeff?
So our opportunities, in my opinion, are probably expanded distance learning along with online to broaden out a little bit. And distance learning, I think we have a great opportunity to use some of the COVID money that we're receiving to improve our distance learning capabilities. One of the things I'm really very excited about, and I touched on earlier, is the environmental scanning we're starting to do. I think it's very important that we start building strong relationships with industry to help them guide us as to the career and technical education and the workforce that they need. I also think, as a trustee, our Vision 2020 has expired, and though we're still guided, it's still one of our guiding documents. It's COVID has kind of set it back, and I don't mean that as an excuse, but it is time now to create our next 5 years worth of vision.
Thank you, Jeff. Larry, what do you feel are the biggest opportunities?
And I would second both the other candidates in that I think, online learning, distance learning type things, I think are going to provide a huge opportunity for institutions like this and private institutions across the educational spectrum. It also seems to me that there's huge growth potential, in a lot of those workforce readiness types of issues. And my guess is that the employers 10 or 20 years from now are probably going to need employees even in non-degree sorts of areas that have a lot of specialized training. And probably for an institution like MCC, if we can identify some of those niches, for that training to occur, we can probably really make a name for ourselves. And my guess would be that there are going to be plenty of opportunities to do that. And also I think that probably in some of those industries that are looking for some of those workers, maybe some of the financing comes along with that as well. So, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Larry. So I did not get an education from Miles Community College, so I couldn't count. So I'm going to give you 6 questions instead of 5.
As long as Jeff has to start.
Yeah, that's why they'll make this. So Jeff has to start with the last one. And so this one comes back. So what is your vision for the long term for the college? Thinking on long-term horizon, what do you feel your vision for the college will be, or where we are headed past the 5-year horizon? So, Jeff, if I could have you start with that one.
Okay. So I think my vision for the college is just growing what we're doing. I mean, I really think that we are and we can grow and expand our role as the higher ed provider in Eastern Montana. I really think that the allied health and producing nurses, phlebotomists, CNAs to staff our healthcare system in Eastern Montana is hugely important. I find that the grow your own concept kind of, if these students are from an area, they'll stay in an area, but if they go to Billings, sometimes Eastern Montana loses them. So, higher ed is, we're all competing for the same in-state FTEs, and that's a limited number. So as our division, offering our high school graduates, our traditional students, and plus our non-traditional students, opportunities to stay and live and work in Eastern Montana.
Thank you, Jeff. Larry?
And I would second a lot of that. I think going down the road, 5 or 10 years from now, whatever enrollment is, I think it's going to translate to probably fewer people sitting in the seat in the classrooms and more people, taking advantage of remote opportunities. A story I'd share with you all is that in one of my extension offices, one of the support staff person that works there and who's had very little college, but she one day aspires to be able to be a county extension agent. And so, but she's sort of starting at ground zero. But through her association with MCC, she's been able to put some credits together to where she's hopeful that maybe over the next 3 or 4 years, she can move on to some sort of remote learning program for a bachelor's degree that she might actually be able to assume that job when the agent that's there retires. And so I think it's being focused on those sorts of things, is that, you know, how do we create outcomes for, you know, people in eastern Montana that have these goals and they want to meet them, and is there a way that through MCC we can help them achieve that? So I think for me that's been maybe one of the most eye-opening things about MCC over the last couple of years, is that, you know, when she started that process I was a little bit skeptical, but I think with MCC I think she's gotten to a point that you know, her goal may actually be attainable now, and that's a pretty cool thing to think about, that she's never really had to leave home, and she might be able to get that degree.
Thank you. Angela?
So I would say that, obviously agreeing that we would need a strong online presence, and being able to increase enrollment that way. But I also think having a strong workforce presence in classes and offering what is needed. He kind of touched about it, that employers are looking for skilled workers right now, and they don't have time to wait for somebody to get out there and get an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. So I think in the long term, I see MCC being able to meet those needs, and we've kind of started that through the processing, like offering welding, offering the CDL, but what other ways can we offer those? So I kind of see MCC being that place where students can go to get more technical learning and maybe get a 9-week or 12-week certification course and get out here and get into the workforce. I see MCC as being the #1 community college in the world. But I'm biased, so. But in addition to that, I feel like I would like to see MCC being fiscally responsible and making sure that not only are we being able to find funding, however we find that through grants or legislation or donations, but also that we're being fiscally responsible in how we spend that money. And that at the end of the day, MCC is still here for 500 years.
Thank you.
I won't be here in 500.
So that question actually is a throwback to our former, if you remember, our former board member, Mark Pearson. His idea was 4,000 here for students in his long-term horizon. Remember when it came on, that was payout to him, so. So I thank you all for your questions and taking the time to answer these. Do we have a mic out in the?
Yes.
Is there any questions from the audience? So with this, we'll start with Larry again and work our way back down. That'd be all right?
Thanks again. My name is Kylene Phipps. I'm the Dean of Administrative Services and Human Resources. And I was just wondering how you see the relationship between MCC and our local high school, and how to, if you feel like that relationship needs to be fostered, and how you would go about that.
And so straight away, I would say one thing. So talked about 3 daughters all having graduated from MCC. And at least 2 of those daughters, one who's already graduated from college and another one who's going to this fall, will be able to graduate a semester early because of the credits they were able to earn, from, the high school through MCC. So, for me as a parent and my kids and student debt and all that, I mean, that's a winner right there. And so I would say to the extent possible to make those things available to the high school here. And also, I think in the way that, high school kids work anymore is that certainly a lot of what's offered in the college classes is not beyond them. So, there might be some real inroads for high school kids to enroll here and take classes. And I believe that if I'm not mistaken, a lot of kids do come over here and take classes. My kids never did that. They just took the dual enrollment credits at the high school. So, yes, I think that's a very important relationship, and I think it's important to foster that. And perhaps maybe there are ways to reach out to other high schools in the area too to achieve some of those things.
So I know that MCC already does that to a lot of high schools in the area, but they also focus a lot on this and offering classes for students at no charge. And I think that that relationship is extremely important. And I think that continuing to foster that relationship will just continue to help grow enrollment. I know right now, I've got some students in my last class that were in high school, and being able to kind of help them grow and see them mature throughout the term was amazing for me. And knowing that I'm helping them in the long term. I think that finance is definitely an issue for a lot of parents. Colleges are expensive these days. So the more that we can help them, but that also then goes to the kind of the idea of we're meeting them wherever they're at. So right now they're just in high school. So I think that if we continue to kind of use that, meet students wherever they're at and keep that in our mind, that's my overall goal.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, I echo that relationship between MCC and CCDHS. It's extremely important. We work hard, and part of the work we do is to add value to post-secondary education and affordability to our community and our district. So it's a huge calling to what we do, and offer all those kids that opportunity for quality and affordability. Can we grow it? I hope so. We have dual enrollment now on traditional classes. Is the opportunity there to have, maybe not dual enrollment, but take career technical classes here, some vocational interaction. So there's opportunity for growth and to establish that relationship. I also think that each year MCC's reputation has improved across, say, some of the guidance counselors at MCC, and we're getting a more robust play from local students and more recommendations that they come our way. So we can serve a lot of students' needs, whether they're need dev ed or whether they're unprepared or underprepared, whether they want to transfer, want to get a few classes and to transfer, and then the degree seeking. So we have lots of opportunity, and that relationship is important because those are the focus of our district, is to get those kids here, offer them availability.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions from the audience?
I can remove my mask, right? Hi, Carolyn Kimball, Academic Affairs, and I'm an assistant to the VP here. This question, of course, you all addressed in the online distance learning and the building of and maintaining and making more of. Of course, we've always had online distance instruction. COVID has expedited it and warranted more of it. I witnessed less seats, less students in the seats, less activity on the campus. Is there fear that we will lose the need for full-time faculty, full-time staff? Will we need a brick and mortar building? Is there any concern for that?
So Angela, I'll let you start with that.
The hard one. Thanks a lot, Carolyn. I would think there's a part of me that says maybe yes, because I think that long-term, I think a lot of colleges are kind of moving toward that. I see as a society as a whole, kids wanting to attend in person less and less. I would hate to see that happen though, and I think that if, as a board, we can come together and find ways to draw students here, whether it's through athletics or through the technical courses that they can't get online, I think that's how we maintain it. I think that yes, we may lose some students in our traditional classes and maybe like an associate, right? But we're not gonna lose those nursing students because they have to be here for that. We're not gonna lose our phlebotomy or our welding or our CDL students. So I think we focus in more on how can we meet those workforce students and make those classes grow that program even more, so we can maintain those faculty, the full-time. And I think even in our general classes, if we go more primarily online, we're still going to need full-time faculty because you're going to be able to offer more classes online because there's less, there's going to be there's still a need for it. And hopefully we're growing that enrollment so much through online that we do need more and more faculty to be here for that.
So as we talk about online learning, if we just set that apart and we want to compete as an online learning institution, we are probably going to lose that competition because if they can go anywhere, they can get the same class at Bozeman and get a degree from a university versus a community college degree. So the strictly online deal scares me a little bit, but it's a new learning process and a hybrid, and I think that anecdotally, this COVID thing, we have found that students want to be on campus and they want to have face-to-face classes. They want the option to be able to take some of these classes online. So it's a new learning module that we're talking about. So we have to find the proper blend. I think at MCC, some of the things we do good, and like Angela mentioned, is athletics. We have dorm life. We have those things that a lot of community colleges don't have. So I think that's an asset for us to grow. But it is a question because I think we have reached the point where online enrollment and face-to-face class enrollment has met just about in the middle. So, and they're crossing. So it's a discussion we've had for the last couple of years. The board takes a big interest in this because how really are we going to look? But right now, the discussion is leaning towards we want a campus. And we want a vibrant campus, and we want a campus life, and we want a campus culture.
So as you asked that question, I thought back, a few years ago till when I was an undergraduate at MSU for 4 years. And man, that was an experience. And and for a lot of reasons, but that had nothing at all to do with perhaps the education that I was receiving while I was at MSU. I mean, and so, thinking of the things that we did and football games on Saturday, at that point in time I was there, the basketball team was really good, and I had a large social network, and we all had a lot of fun together. Obviously that can't be duplicated in an online environment. There's just no way to do it. And I would say for me personally, after a year of largely working from home in a remote environment and being there mostly by myself, is that we as humans, we kind of need to get together every once in a while. And I think we're all sort of faunching at the bit to sort of toss these masks aside and go back to business as usual. Having said all that, I think there's always going to be a call, in a situation like this for a brick and mortar building. And, and for students to be on campus and be able to learn one-on-one. Online for everything that it offers, it also has its deficiencies. And I think that's probably one thing that we've learned in Extension a little bit is that, I think education is always much better, when we can have a human being in front of the people that are learning rather than, in a classroom, rather than doing it remotely. Obviously there are times when maybe it's more appropriate to do it remotely, but, in-person learning and having everyone together, I think that's important, and I think as long as MCC we focus on the student experience, if they're going to come to MCC and invest their time here, let's make it a great experience while they're here on campus and do all the things to make it memorable and help them to appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further questions from the floor?
I'm Erin Nidji, I'm the Dean of Enrollment Management and Educational Support Services, and I am wondering if you could add any new academic program to MCC's offerings that you believe would meet a community or regional need, what would that be?
Jeff, I'll have you start with this question. The hot seat, so you can thank Aaron for this one too, so.
I'm glad the guy with some experience got that one.
So, new program?
A new program.
See how difficult it is? Academics? Yeah.
So, and I can't use the meat cutting, as it's been relatively recent, but, I guess, I would consider this a new program, but our agreement for, teachers' education with, Dickinson State. And that's gonna give us a new opportunity for local students to complete a four-year degree here in Miles City. And so, expanding on that, if we can identify other areas of education that we can do that with, that would add another tier to the services we provide.
Thank you, Jeff. Larry?
Well, and just to throw one out there, because I'm sure there are lots of them, but, you know, one of the things I sat here and I think about a little bit is that, I guess, you know, growing up in eastern Montana and growing up on a ranch is that, for whatever happens, if MCC's around another 500 years or whatever, but 500 years from now, we're gonna go out here on this ground and people are still gonna be grazing cattle and sheep out there. That's just the way it's gonna be. You know, the structure of that all may change, but thinking through that a little bit is that, I think there's going to be, over time, need for additional technology in those areas. And this is maybe getting way out there, but, you know, thinking about ranchers and with solar pumps and solar wells and people that can work on things like that. I'm guessing at some point in the future that, you know, there's going to be a future for people to generate their own electricity. So there might be a boom in personal solar panels and some of those kinds of things. But I think those all might be businesses or employment opportunities that might come along. Now, I'm not thinking we should maybe jump right out and start that program next year, but I think that's probably, you know, a line of thought that's maybe worth pursuing is that, you know, people that have some of that technology skill that can make those things work and understand it, they might have a real future in eastern Montana.
Okay, thank you, Angela.
So I can't really take credit for this one because my husband keeps telling me this over and over again. He's the supervisor at the VA in the kitchen, and we do not have enough food service trained workers here. And it's a huge issue. Even within MCC, it's a huge issue. And if we had a program that offered that, we could have them training in our staff, which would help save us as well. And I know that our restaurants lack proper help, so it would meet a huge workforce need. So I would have to say food service. And I know someone who can help teach.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
I have a question as well. So what is the role of the Board of Trustees?
Larry, back to you.
Oh, geez. To me, I think, well, I did sort back through a few pages of minutes, so I at least familiarized myself a little bit with the work that the trustees have done over time. But, you know, I think, you know, trustees provide oversight and support to the president and administration at the college, you know. So, you know, everybody's got to answer to someone, I suppose you would say. And so the president, you know, would answer to the board of trustees. And obviously, we don't tell him what to do on a daily basis, but we should be there, you know, to support and support the president and help things get off the ground and provide leadership and insight, you know, to the programs that are here. I think also, and Jeff mentioned in one of his earlier answers, is advocacy. And so, we're really sort of the front line of people that need to be out there in terms of, working with legislators and others and talking about the value of programs here. If we're going to, sustain a college at Miles City, a lot of that has to start with a board of trustees, that's worked hard to get some information out there and help decision makers understand what's going on here and the impacts of those things. So to me, I think it's the role is, to oversee the president and support the president, but then also advocacy.
Larry?
I would have to agree, obviously, the oversight and advocacy, but I also add in there being, I feel like the board is kind of the guider of the vision. So making sure that whatever vision the college has, they're making sure that that is being met through whatever needs to be done to make that happen.
Thank you, Angela. Jeff?
And I would agree with both those comments. I also think that probably one of the most important things we do is to hire and retain a president. I think that and I think we have a lot of input at that level in starting the trustee vision and working forward from it, because generally we find that we have the wants and needs identified for the college, and we kind of find a president whose vision would enhance that. So that's very important. The success of the president is very important. We do have budgetary oversight. We advocate for the college locally and legislatively. We are final authority on things like policy. And I said we were final authority on some other things, but I have to say we are semi-final authority, because the Board of Regents really does have final authority on our budget, our academic consent items, and our tuition and fees, though we do a lot of the work to get them to that point. And in my experience yet, we haven't been challenged. So we're close to being the final authority.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'm Debbie Murford. I'm one of the trustees and past chair. And all of you spoke to the value of MCC and students. What's your view of the value of MCC to the community?
Angela, I think you're up next.
Oh, I am up first. I think that kind of what we talked about, like having all the workforce programs, being able to offer, I think that value to the community is extremely important. I think the community needs us to train workforce. Like we kind of talked about with the food service workers, if we can offer that value to the community is huge. I think that not just that, but for students who don't want to leave this area, the value to them to being able to come here and learn a skill, even start a degree, get comfortable with going to school, makes MCC invaluable to this area. Also for high school students and having that relationship with them, being able to go and start their college career, having some college classes, and guiding them towards success. I think that the Centra is a huge value. People can come here and really be healthy. I think having this as a place where people can come and utilize the library or just have a meeting place, those aren't things that Miles City has a lot of. So I think that there's so many things that MCC offers to this community that just makes it invaluable.
Thank you, Jeff.
So the first and foremost is quality of affordable higher ed for our community. That we go back to, we're the beacon for achieving continuing greater community prosperity. And the last study we did with President Klippenstein, we found that for every $1 invested in MCC of funding, we return to the community $2.20. So 120% return. So the economic impact is huge. I also would like to piggyback onto your comment, but we are a venue for activities that fill restaurants, hotels, and businesses. And I think that's sometimes often overlooked. So the value to the community a lot of times is that to me.
Thank you, Jeff. Larry?
And certainly, I think any town or city that's fortunate to have an institution of higher learning is richer for it. You know, and so all the things that the other candidates have mentioned. You know, this is the activities that go on here, and access to the library, and access to classes and everything else. That makes us, Miles City, a little bit more of a sustainable community. I think other things, if we're perhaps bringing in faculty members from other places that, you know, sort of add to our diversity. You know, if I look at the roster, I think on the women's basketball team, I'm pretty sure there's several there who weren't born in this country. And so, you know, there's just a lot of little things that kind of add to the richness of the community and help us, you know, as Miles Cityans and Eastern Montanans see out a little ways further than just what perhaps might exist in Eastern Montana. And so, yeah, I think there's just a whole bunch of things. You know, like I said, going back to my own career in high school and sitting in here probably back in about 1982 or 83 and taking an academic Olympics test. You know, and all of the things that have happened since then. Yeah, MCC plays a very large role in things that happen in Eastern Montana in a lot of different venues. And so, yeah, I think I think there's more ways that MCC contributes to the Miles City community than you can count, and there's probably almost as many that from the Miles City community that contribute to MCC. So that's a great question.
Thank you, Larry. Any further questions?
I'm John Laney. I have numerous alphabetical acronyms that I operate from, and I'm not going to bore you with all of those. The one thing I will say is I am a salesman of Miles City, along with being a salesman of Miles Community College. The thing that I think is one of the most important things that the board plays into as far as what we as a community and myself as a salesperson does is it affords a flexibility. And I'm curious as to how you see a flexible role, because we've addressed all of the kind of standard bare run-of-the-mill questions as we've gone along tonight. But I think one of the things that's great about Miles Community College is they have some sort of flexibility in changing things to meet the needs of the community and the surrounding area. How do you see yourself in a board position as servicing that flexibility to where Miles Community College can grow and Miles City can grow along with it?
Thank you. Jeff, I'll have you start with that one.
I get all the time. So, I think having a locally elected board allows us to be as nimble and as flexible, in your terms, as most higher ed institutions. I think that the challenge is to identify those needs of the community and get them into a package where we can train, educate, or somehow make a marriage of the needs and the skills that we can train and provide for at whatever education level, whether it be certificate or whether it be an associate degree or whether it just be some training. But being locally governed gives us the ability to be relatively nimble. So, and I think, again, I'll reiterate, the hurdle is identify those needs out there. I think we've started the process in trying to build better relationships with industry and the community.
Thank you, Larry.
That's a great question, John. And so I'm gonna, piggyback off Jeff's answer just a little bit in that. So if I'm correct, I think 7 members sit on this board. And, in a perfect world, all 7 of those members perhaps come from different backgrounds and maybe represent different entities in the community, healthcare, business, education, all the things that could be. So I think to start with, I think the board itself lends itself to flexibility if structured correctly, so that, we can identify those needs. I think the other one is too, is that, I think and maybe some of us fall into this every once in a while, is I think we have to be really careful to make sure that we are aware of the direction that our communities are going and what our economic drivers are and what those drivers are not going to be. And probably, I think I mentioned, coal in one of my previous answers. It's not looking good for coal in eastern Montana right now. So maybe rather than trying to hang on too tightly to that, maybe we really need to be thinking about, what comes after that and what are the economic drivers here going to be and how do we tap into them? There's nothing we can do about that, but maybe we can catch on to the next thing. And my opinion would be is that probably, MCC is small. There's never going to be, 1,000 or 2,000 students here. So, being small means that you're nimble and being able to change and perhaps, adapt to new things and new conditions or capitalize on resources that are in the community at a given point in time to teach classes or to get a program off the ground or something like that. But yeah, I think just by virtue of MCC's existence, it has to be nimble, and if it can't be nimble, it probably can't live for much longer, would be my thought.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Yeah.
I'm going to disagree for the first time tonight. In 1,000 years, I hope that there are 1,000, 2,000 students. So, but with that said, I think both of my other candidates addressed adequately the boards need to be flexible on how they would do that. I would agree with what they said. I personally, though, would bring my own, I believe that as a board member, I'd come in and listen to what everyone else has to say and add my opinions, but compromise and being flexible with that as well. I think sometimes we see too often, and especially in all of our politics today, people draw this hard line and that's where we're at, and we're not going to change our mind at all. And while yes, I may have some very strong opinions on what I think should happen, I definitely think that you have to learn to compromise, you have to listen to other people, and you have to be flexible in your own right. Otherwise, no matter what we do on the outside, the board will not be flexible if there's 1, 2, or 3 people that are not willing to draw that line. And while I may be flexible, if one of the other board members are not, maybe having that very real conversation of, we have to grow, and if we want to grow, you have to loosen up a little bit, and just sitting down over coffee and really hashing it out. Decaf, because I'm on decaf right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other further questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none, we'll carry on. So, I thank all of you. I know it's a big thing to put yourself out in these elections. We do all appreciate you guys taking the time to run. It's a big thing, even just to get your name out into the pool and start the process. We appreciate everybody's coming out here today for these questions. This will be posted, do we know?
This should be posted tomorrow, right, Don?
Through our
On
website? Okay,
And there'll be a link that you can click on to go to it.
So if there's some people here that couldn't make it or be able to direct them there, and also ballots, I believe, were mailed out. And so be an advocate out in the community and see as many we can get back into the courthouse. And I do not even know when those are due back.
May 4th.
May 4th, nice, thank you. So be aware that those are coming, too.
Well, I just wanted to say that, of course, I served on the board for 15 years, and never once did I have to do what you guys just did. And I'm pretty sure if I had, I wouldn't have been here for 15 years. Thank you very much for what you guys are doing.
Thank you all for your time. If you get a chance and want to come up, visit with these, if you have an opportunity to stay around a little bit and visit with any of the candidates, we hope you take this opportunity. Appreciate all of you coming, and with that, we will shut down our forum here, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.